I'm Alison Hackett and my business is called The Visual Time Traveller. Now, what is The Visual Time Traveller? Well, it's a book. As you can see, I'm holding one here and there's some here on the table. It's also an exhibition of the images in the book and the beautiful designs. It's also a talk, and just to give you an example of what's in this book, how does it work? Well, it goes from, the whole book goes from 1500 right up to the present day, but I'm opening it on the page of one of the 5-year time periods. And this one happens to be from 1900 to 1905. And if you just dipped into this, you might think, well, what was happening then? So I have 12 facts here, and you can see in the design, have drawn an image of Joyce. You might be able to see that in the book here. I've got a map going on in the background. And the reason for this is because Joyce had his very famous date with Nora Barnacle. And they walked around Dublin, and the whole of Joyce's book Ulysses was based later on that walk around Dublin, and also the ancient Greek story about Odysseus. But Joyce, he loved Dublin. He left in 1912. He was in Dublin for the last time, and after that he never visited Dublin or Ireland again. But Dublin remained at his heart, and he only ever wrote about Dublin. So you can see how this page is all about Joyce, but you go to any other pages in the book and there's completely other things happening. So we're literally 5 years later on the next page, and you can see that picture here. It's E = mc squared, Einstein creating his most famous equation, but also Picasso was developing analytic cubism. This was a new way of doing art. So they're just 2 facts on that next page in this book. So I think you'll get the idea now. It suits anybody who's interested, curious, likes a visual bit of stimulation. It's not just text. So you can dip in, it'll suit a kid, one of the kids in your family, it'll suit a corporate gift maybe. You could have a visiting speaker and you're wondering, what could I give this visiting speaker that will interest them? They'll go away, they'll have a little bit of Ireland, because there's very Irish content in this, yet it's worldwide. They're going to find something that they're interested in. If they're a scientist, historian, an artist, it's very accessible in a very broad way. Well, I joined Plato when I was at the very beginning of this project. I had decided I was going ahead with the Visual Time Traveller. I had the concept of having designs and facts within them, but I really wasn't sure, could it be a business? I knew it was a very creative, artistic project, really unsure about the business end. So I'm going to give you an example of that journey. So this was a prototype I developed while I was beginning to see, will this work? Is there a concept in this that people might buy? So this is actually the pages for 1895 to 1900. And in that time period, Bram Stoker was writing Dracula, actually in Ireland, believe it or not. So a very Irish part to that page. But another fact that happened on that page was that, or in that time period, was that aspirin was first invented. The drug you take, aspirin, was first isolated. And the designers, I will have sent them those facts, but they came up with this very clever connection of the 2 facts. So here you have Dracula, obviously, that's a very easy bit to get. But down here, you mightn't know that this is the molecule for aspirin. It's acetylsalicylic acid. So the designers put this little molecule for aspirin down at Dracula's mouth. And the really fun bit about this is, if Bram Stoker had known that aspirin thins the blood, then he could have had Dracula giving his victims a little bit of aspirin before he was going to take a bite or a drink. But there's another 10 facts on the page, and that would include Paul Cézanne paints the bathers, Marie Curie discovered radium, The Importance of Being Earnest, a trivial comedy for serious people, was written by and performed in London, Oscar Wilde's famous play, another Irish connection. So when I had this bit done, I went around and started showing them to people, and I knew immediately. I had 2 other prototypes I'd done. People would just really leap with excitement when they saw it. They would immediately get what I was trying to do. Start asking me, how did you decide on the facts? How would you plan a design? And in my bones, I knew I had a business. But I needed support. I had no support. I was completely on my own. All the risk was my own. So I came across Plato and was asked would I like to apply for it. I did join, and immediately I kind of had a family, and that was the best thing for me. I had a little business family, and one of the very first meetings I ever went to, even before Plato, when I went to a business group meeting, I suddenly realised everybody here in the room has similar issues to me. You know, what are you doing about PR? Have you got a website? Are you using social media? What do you do with your finances? Are you selling? That embarrassing question. And what was super was, as you go through the Plato program, all of these things are addressed, and you have a whole 3 hours can be spent on just one of those items: how to manage your sales. Are you working on business development? So without that support, I would have, I think, continued to create a lovely, beautiful book. I'm not sure it would have gone anywhere. On finances and accounting, and how you look at your time as well as your product. And most of the people that I would have been sharing with were running a service. So they would be worried about the time they spent on things, or the time their employees spent on things. And are you pricing that right? So when you're trying to quote a job, have you got that price right? But where it immediately became apparent to me in the way that accounting and finances was managed in that talk in Plato, it was that you must calculate everything. You must look at every single cost that's coming into your business, and your time is one of those costs. And then you look at, well, what do I need to earn to pay those costs and to pay myself? And that for me was a real revelation, that I could very easily look at how many books do I need to sell in order to make that profit to cover my costs. And it just became such a simple calculation. I was kind of astonished at how easy that was to do once you understood it. And I also realised at that point, I'm not just selling books, I'm selling an exhibition, I'm selling a talk, I'm selling sometimes training. So all these different things will provide a different income. So I don't have to sell as many exhibitions, because I'd get paid more for an exhibition than I would have to sell individual books. And I really realised at that point, gosh, I'd have to sell an awful lot of books, and I'd have to be selling every day for this to turn into profit, and it wouldn't turn into a convincing endless profit. So that was definitely a very seminal one in Plato. One of the best talks at Plato for me was the one on time management, and it was really, what I loved about that was it was personal. It was helping you as a business owner. How do you manage your time? You get up each day and you have 1,000 things pulling at you. You're wondering, which bit of the business should I address today? So I came away from that with this understanding that there were, with anything, first of all, to list things in, not necessarily on paper, you could do it on the computer. I actually went straight home from that meeting and started doing it on my calendar on the computer instead of rough scraps of paper, which I'd done before that. And on the computer, on your diary, you could put in things, your to-do list, but also you could put in meetings. It was such an obvious thing, I just hadn't done it before that. But also then, how do you prioritise? And I was really struggling with that, because I kind of knew the important things, I'd do them first. But Derek from Thrive, who was at this Plato meeting, he gave us a really great set of tips. There are 4 criteria if you want to decide how you're going to get through your day with any actions that are coming up. Number 1, is it important? Number 2, is it urgent? Number 3, is it good for my business? And number 4, which I just loved, is it good for me? And you could do that with your business life, but you could also do it with your personal life. So what I learned from that was extraordinary. I went home and I've actually changed the way I work completely because of that. And I did it again yesterday. Put in, I have different colours now for personal things. I have a different colour for the to-do list. I have a different colour for meetings, and I have a different colour, I've red for deadlines. So this was absolutely fantastic learning, and I got that in Plato. I would completely recommend Plato to my best friend, or to anybody trying to set up in business, or if they're struggling in their business. They might have been set up for a while, but they're finding they're struggling. And the reason I would recommend it is I would compare it to it's like your family. My kids have grown up, but now when they come home and they come home for Sunday dinner, they love that kind of safety of home. You can be yourself, you can relax, you can admit problems you had during the week, you can say you were upset, you were tired, you can also tell about the good things. And this was what Plato became for me, a really safe place to be with the other members in my group, and we could share our own sort of problems, worries, concerns, pitfalls, as well as the joyful things, the really successful things. And that feeling of support was extraordinarily good, extraordinary. And led by Marianne Palmer, I really found it so valuable. The real thing that happened then at the end of that year, I made this decision: Alison, you've done a lot of the learning, now get out and start the doing. And I got out and I started doing things. I started selling new products, I started doing some video, I arranged talks and really got back into the core of what my business is, but got on with it. Less words, more action.